I'm getting this question all the time. My agent just dropped me. What do I do? Or, I don't have an agent. We're in the middle of coronavirus. What do I do? No rep? Action step. On today's episode of Casting Actors Cast.
This is Casting Actors Cast. Each episode takes you behind the scenes and answers your questions about the business of show. Please don't forget to subscribe and like wherever you get your podcasts. Now here's the host of Casting Actors Cast, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Casting Actors Cast. How are you? I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, casting director with McCorkle Casting in New York. How are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. I'm doing okay, and I'm really looking forward to having a chance to talk to you today, especially because this is a question I've been getting a lot from a lot of actors, which is, what do I do about representation? So we're going to tackle that question and maybe give you some tips, some hints, and some suggestions. But first, as you know, if you've been a regular listener to this podcast, this is that moment of the podcast where I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Casting Actors Cast. As of this recording, we're up to 26,000 downloads of this podcast. It's been very, very exciting, and I'm so grateful. And thank you to those of you who have been sharing this podcast with friends. It means a lot to me. If you could give me a subscribe or a thumbs up, if you're watching me on YouTube, please give me a comment. I need all the help that I can get in order to maintain these podcasts and to keep on keeping on. So it means a lot to me that you're out there. And as I said, I'm really grateful. You can go to castingactorscast.com, all one word, and there's a website there. You can check out what's going on the website, but also there's a free downloadable book I'm giving you once you fill out the form that says dive into the talent pool. That'll open up another box, and you'll be able to download a 100-page PDF book called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the Voiceover Workshop for Professional Actors. It's a book I wrote about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think you might find it useful, especially now, if you're really interested in doing voiceover work. That becomes very, very useful, I think. The door just squeaked because my dog decided to make an entrance. So I'm not going to cut that out. I'm just going to leave that there. This is the new reality we're all living in. So if you do that, I would really appreciate that. And filling out that form just lets me know that you are there. So I really appreciate that as well. Also, a great big shout out to my friends at Actors Connection, actorsconnection.com, a really wonderful place where they're doing workshops and seminars and intensives and classes with agents, with managers, with casting directors, people who are working in the industry. They've got a wonderful program for voice acting as well at Actors Connection. They're doing a tremendous amount of online programming with offices in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New York. So please, huge hello to my friends at Actors Connection as we jump into this most interesting subject I'm calling No Rep Action Step. I know, I'm struggling with interesting titles, apparently, these days. But I really thought it would be great to chat with you about what's going on in the industry as far as agents are concerned and what actors are doing now that there's this sort of bizarre frozen in jello kind of movement with what's going on in the industry. And so this is a really a perfect time, I think, to talk to you about strategies and maybe some ideas about getting somebody to represent you. Now, if you have an agent already and you've gotten some indication from your agency that everything is going to be fine and getting back to normal once the COVID virus has dissipated, then that's great. This might not be the podcast for you. If, on the other hand, you're an actor who doesn't have any kind of representation, maybe you're just getting out of school. Gosh, there's been a lot of showcases, and I've been doing a lot of teaching with a lot of actors who are not represented, or if they have representation, maybe they're just freelancing with an agent, and so they're not quite sure what to do next. What is the next best step as far as maintaining a good professional relationship with a representative for you, an agent, a manager? So we'll talk about that. So that's why I'm calling this no rep action step, because, I know this is going to sound trite, and, I've been hearing this a lot, we're all in this together. Honestly, if I hear that one more time, I think my head will explode. Although it's true, we're all kind of dealing with this in our own way. But also there's an amazing community of actors out there. And there are a lot of really talented folks who are looking for the next step for their career. Not only when this virus clears up, but right now. What can you do now? So I think we're going to address that. First and foremost, the thing I'd like to share with you is please don't panic. This is not the time to decide what your future is going to be. This is a most unusual time, and panicking is nothing but wasted energy as far as I'm concerned. So please don't panic. Why? Because you know what? Agents are in the same predicament. Agencies are suffering greatly as well. There is no film or television production going on. All of the theaters have stopped, frozen. And so there's this kind of suspended animation going on amongst the industry. So for you to decide that this is a great time to be panicked about this is really not looking at the bigger picture. So I'm encouraging you to look at the bigger picture as far as what agents are going through. And you know what? Agencies may lose clients. Agencies may have to drop clients. There may be this whole kind of resurgence of new agencies popping up, and they are going to be looking for new talent. So there's all kinds of variables that we haven't kind of dealt with yet. So this is definitely not the time to panic. And let's talk about number 2 in my mind, which is that you may not need an agent. Believe it or not. Now, my feeling is that if you're planning on being, or you are a professional actor and you don't have representation, don't panic, but know that an agent is probably most likely going to be in your future. Come hell or high water, you are probably going to get an agent, or you are probably going to be approached by an agent at some point in your career. Now, there are some exceptions. Here are some exceptions. You may be in a part of the country where you are a working actor and you don't necessarily need an agency. Let's say that you are a local hire at a mid-sized city or town that has some professional theater going on, and you might just find that there are opportunities in that locale. You don't even need a representation from anybody. That the people in your town, you've had relationships with directors and producers, and you are enjoying a wonderful life as a working actor without the representation part. That is perfectly valid. That is a legitimate way that many actors are enjoying working. So it's not always the same for everyone. The other thing is it might not always be necessary for you, even if you are in a larger town or a larger city, because you might have really great relationships with producers and directors now. You may be one of those fortunate people that knows how to maintain contact with producers and directors. And if you're able to continue that kind of relationship, then there's no reason why a director isn't going to bring you in if he's worked with you before and he really likes working with you. Many actors enjoy working with the same directors on multiple projects over time. So there's another reason why you don't have to sort of just decide that this is a terrible thing that's happening to us right now because you don't have representation. And moving forward is just that. It is movement forward. It is taking a look at all of the options that are available to you and really exploring some ideas and some action steps that you haven't thought of. So let's talk about that. The truth is that this is a new reality paradigm that we're living in. What I mean by that is the whole structure of the way it was working in the recent past is changing now to accommodate several factors that are going to be taking place now and in the future. Here's what I mean by that. I firmly believe the successful agents and managers that have a medium to semi-large size agency, they're probably going to be just fine. They're probably going to be able to open up their doors and start working with their talent pool once again as things start to get back. So there's no question that if you have an agent or manager and you are assigned a contracted actor with that agency or that management company, there's a really good chance that you're going to be in fine shape, especially when things get back to production status. But I also think that there's some value in embracing the concept that we will probably be seeing some changes in agencies themselves. And here's what I'm talking about. Some of the smaller or boutique agencies. Now, what I say by boutique agencies, by the way, I did a podcast on agents and managers going back a ways, so feel free to go and check that out as well. So I don't want to have to go through and rehash everything, but just suffice it to say that smaller boutique agencies, usually there are 3 or 4 agents working in those smaller boutique agencies. And then there's the mid-size agencies. That's anywhere from 7 to 20 agents working in one umbrella, under one umbrella, one agency name. And then, of course, there's the large, huge agencies, the very big, well-known, your William Morris agencies, your ICMs, et cetera, et cetera. So those 3 categories. Let's take a look at the first category, the small boutique agencies. My thinking is that we are going to see many of those smaller agencies perhaps regrouping, perhaps forming larger agencies because there's strength in numbers. So I think that we're probably going to be seeing some agreements between certain agencies that are actually going to be forming new companies. And because of the nature of the business, having larger film and television and then some theater agencies and then sort of pooling resources might be a way in which many of these smaller boutique agencies will be able to survive. That means they're going to be bringing their clients along with them if those changes take place. And that means that there might be, at that moment, might be opportunities for those of you who don't have representation. So we'll talk about strategies in finding out how do you know when there might be a new agency forming. But I also think that there's going to be a resurgence rather. I don't think a lot is the right word, but there's going to be a growth in agencies turning into becoming managers. And here's the reason why. Legitimate agencies are franchised by the unions being SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity Association. That means they abide by the rules and regulations set forth by the unions. And they are signatories of those unions. So they have to adhere to the strict rules and regulations in terms of payment, fair and honest work, that sort of thing. But managers don't have that kind of organization. They don't abide by the rules and regulations set forth by the unions. And so what that means is that almost anybody can become a manager. Now, this brings a whole other conversation to the forefront. And that is many times you'll find a lot of folks, a lot of people becoming managers when they really don't know that much about it. That means anybody can become a manager. You just kind of put your shingle up and you're a manager. So that's why I want to put out a cautionary tale. Now, although there are many fantastic managers out there, and they are there to help manage your career as an actor, you might want to just proceed with caution if there are some new management companies that you are approached by. Just something to keep in mind. But so now that we're seeing maybe new agencies forming, maybe these smaller boutique agencies are going to be becoming slightly larger agencies. But I can tell you that these huge, big monster agencies, the William Morris as an example, I mean, I know firsthand that those agencies have cut back drastically on the people that are working at the agency by as much as 40 to 50%. Everything is sort of on hold. Well, what does that mean? Well, it could mean a lot of things, right? It could mean that these huge agencies are going to start getting smaller and smaller. It could mean that those agents that were let go or furloughed might go off and form other agencies, taking some of their clients with them. They might just become managers. So you see what's happening is all of these different variations, all of these different evolved creations in the business are taking place now and will continue to grow and take place. So that is another huge reason why you should absolutely not panic. There's just too many variables to have to make some kind of a rational decision at this moment. But there are some steps for you to take. And when I say action step, that's what I mean. Taking an action literally means taking steps in order to prepare yourself for the next thing that's going to be happening once we start getting back to work, once production starts up, once theaters begin to open. So here are some steps that I would like you to consider. And you don't have to do any of them, of course. These are mere suggestions. But for those of you that are concerned about the future and your career, here are some things, some tangible things that you can do to feel better about where you are in the business. Number one, you need to communicate with everybody you know. I'm talking about with school, you need to get back in touch with your college professors. If you're in college, you need to communicate with those people who have access to people in the industry. That means that maybe you've just graduated recently. Congratulations. That's so cool. But here's the thing. You got to go back to those professors. Let them know where you're at and what your intentions are. Whether you really are planning on moving to a smaller market and maybe trying to get gainfully employed as an actor in those smaller towns with professional theater, or maybe you're deciding between California or New York. And this is the time to really make a comprehensive list of those people that you've worked with, those people that you've met, those people that you've been taught by, those professors in your classes. This is the time to reestablish a line of communication, making it clear what your intentions are as a professional actor. So step number 2, please do yourself a favor and investigate seminars and classes and workshops. They can be local. They can be free. They can be paid workshops and classes with professionals in the industry. Now, a lot of actors have had great success with taking those, what I call one-offs, which is that you pay a relatively modest fee, you audition for feedback, you work on monologues or scene study. I think those are very, very useful. I don't think that the expectation should be that you're going to get an agent out of it. I think that might be misplaced, but you will learn specific skill sets and you will start to plant the seed of relationship with those people in the business. Please remember that any relationship, business or otherwise, takes time to cultivate. And especially in this environment that we're finding ourselves now, this kind of new Zoom world at a distance, it's vital that you simply continue to maintain or start new relationships. Seminars, classes, workshops, those are all excellent, excellent ideas for you. If you don't have that readily available to you, then I promise you, if you start your own group of actors, just get together once a week for an hour and chat about what you are doing for yourself in the business. A support group can be really, really influential, and I think is extremely valuable to have a sense that there are others in your community or in the acting community in general that are suffering and dealing with the same issues that you might be dealing with. And that might lead and trigger some excellent ideas for you. Also, Job search technology is amazing. Now, I've talked in the past several podcasts, by the way, ad nauseum, I think almost, because I think there are so many ways in which you can find out about what's going on. So make it a structured habit for yourself. So my suggestion is you've got to know what's going on in the industry. So going to Backstage.com, going to Playbill.com, any resource out there that's talking about the changes or what's happening within the business, Hollywood Reporter. These are all really great tools for you to stay informed about the changes that are taking place. Plus, you're going to see all kinds of announcements coming up within the next several weeks and months to come that are really going to be sharing with you how many of these agencies are either going to be moving on, closing, connecting with another agency. So there'll be all kinds of news and information. And if you are well informed, because after all, you're the CEO of your own company, you're going to find it really amazing that as you develop these relationships and as you continue to become knowledgeable about what changes are happening in the industry, you're going to be empowered. You're going to feel in control. You see, it's loss of control that we are terrified about. We need to strike the balance between those things we can control and those things we cannot control. So what can you control? So that's why I titled this episode, No Rep, Action Step. Turning the situation or the concern or the problem into tangible, structured items for you to put on your checklist and do it on a continual basis. You're going to find that when we get back to some sense of normalcy, when production starts up again, that there are going to be all of these opportunities beyond your wildest dreams. I promise. I promise. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and please tell your friends about this podcast, will you? Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Caitlin Clark.